my parents were very appreciative of even music like before they were alive. So a lot of like classic New Orleans music, and you know, and then obviously like stuff like, you know, just the Beatles and, you know, Led Zeppelin and Simon and Garfunkel, and a lot of like show tunes and
they're just all over the map.
yeah, a lot of different stuff, which is like the best. I mean, I'm so appreciative of that, just because you know, having a wide, you know, variety of stuff. That's kind of a lot of us in the band. Like we especially with the stuff that we've been trying to write and record, like trying to focus on having a good variety of stuff, not just doing like one kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with New Orleans, there's a lot of leeway, you know, a lot of world music inspired kind of stuff.
A lot of different cultures.
Yeah, Afro-Cuban kind of beats, and so we try to kind of incorporate that, you know.
Yeah.
That's the fun stuff.
Did you gravitate towards any one genre specifically, or?
I wouldn't say. I don't know. It kind of goes like in a cyclical kind of way. Like I'll focus on certain styles, you know, like, and then kind of just gravitate towards other styles. Like I'm right now like listening to a lot of like classic like soul. So like, you know, Al Green and Otis Redding and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I love like dumpster funk, and I love yeah, we were just listening to John Cleary a little bit earlier, and I kind of go back to like, you know, a lot of like a lot of like OG rock and roll. Though I do love some nice some Beatles or some, you know, classic stuff. But yeah, I jump around a lot, but like that's I don't know, that's what it's for, I guess, you know?
How many people were in your family?
I have 3 brothers.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, and
so
then
there's
both my parents.
A lot of different music styles.
Yeah,
a lot of different people.
Yes, yeah.
Any of them played any instruments in school or otherwise?
Yeah, so my mom played piano when she was a kid, and so she was always kind of, not like forcing us to play or anything, but she was always kind of, she wanted us to have a wide variety of, you know, stuff that we could do, I guess.
Sure.
So she was always, you know, subtly pushing music and art and that kind of stuff, which obviously worked out. And my older brother plays guitar, and he plays in the band with us.
Okay.
And one of my little brothers has been learning guitar as well the last couple years. But like me and my older brother started guitar at the same time. I was like 10 or 11, and he was 14 about. And so we kind of have been doing it together, which is, you know, that's like the best way, because you have somebody else, and you know, it's like my older brother, so you look up to somebody like that, you know. Yeah. And we were always, you know, interested in music and always listening to music, and it was never something that was like a planned thing to be like, oh, I want to be a musician. But as we got older, and it kind of made more sense, I guess. You know, yeah.
How much older is he than you?
He's 4 years, about.
4 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Was he in a band? Was he like the first person in your family to be in a band?
Yeah, yeah. So he played in some bands like in high school, when he was in high school, and I went to like all of his stuff, and I was never super. I never thought I would be doing that eventually.
Right.
And it kind of took that him and the drummer, our drummer now, Connor. They kind of were trying to like push me into doing it, because I mean, they enjoyed it, and like I'd never done it, so it was more of a like, I don't know.
You were able to go see them perform.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of definitely opened me up a little bit, and then I started playing together with them, and then we kind of gradually just have added, you know, people to the mix, and
sure,
you know,
yeah. So that was a very like real natural approach, a very gradual and natural approach. It wasn't like I have to do that. Let me get this. Let me do that. Yeah.
It's kind of turned into that now. I'm like, all right, this is definitely this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it took a little minute for me to get there. But
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And you're on guitar? What are you playing?
I play bass mainly, and I sing.
Okay.
And I started on guitar, so I play guitar as well, and I play a little piano.
I got you.
But yeah.
What's your mainstay? Is it bass?
Yeah, bass. Yeah. I've started. So I played guitar since like 10 or 11, and it was originally me and my older brother on guitar, and we had our buddy Reese playing bass, and Reese moved out of town, and so we needed somebody to play bass.
Yeah.
And that was right before the pandemic.
Sure.
So I've been playing bass for like 2 years, almost 3 years, something like that.
Was it a rough transition for you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but especially going from like, you have the mindset of like, oh, I'm a guitarist,
Yeah.
and then you have to switch. But I think it was definitely the best thing that could have happened, because especially like listening to specific music, like you listen to, if you play guitar, a lot of people listen to guitar. When you switch instruments too, like for me at least, I'm listening to other things that I probably wouldn't have been focusing on.
Sure. It changes
before.
Your perspective.
Yeah, just like getting a whole, like now that I've I can kind of jump between instruments. You're listening to the whole sound differently. You know what I mean? Instead of like, oh, I'm gonna take a solo right here. It's like, oh, I need to like play something on bass that kind of just like sits in the background for them to take a solo. You know? And then it kind of just it makes you, at least it's helped me kind of realize the whole like structure of the sound.
Well, I mean, you got a different job in the band,
exactly.
so to speak. You're, it's a more rhythmic instrument, and you're more responsible for the cohesiveness of the group. Sometimes you got to hold it down, like you're talking about, instead of taking the lead where you would with a guitar, I assume. So how old were you when you finally started performing in front of anyone? My brothers and I did all this. We used to do like, they had like a talent show at our school, so we would do that. But it was only like singing. We never really like played instruments until I got really older. Mm-hmm.
But more like publicly stuff. I was probably 17 or 18.
Okay.
With my older brother Tucker and our drummer Connor. Just like we did like a wedding shower, for like a family member. Just nothing paid or anything. But once I started doing that, I was like, all right, this is definitely something that I enjoy. And then you get more serious about it after a couple of years of doing it, and we got Dalton in, and so probably 17, something like that.
Okay, but you, so when you, I mean, to perform in front of a talent show to me is a performance. I mean, it takes nerve in somebody to be able to get up on stage and do anything like it went when y'all were alone. You know what I'm saying? Because
that's very true.
You get nervous and all that stuff. But you kind of work those kinks out before you got to doing your own shows outside of school or family or things like that. Yeah,
definitely not purposely, but it worked out that way, which is great. I mean, and I was always, I think most of us in my family were kind of like that anyway. My dad's a teacher, so like he's very comfortable, talking in front of people. And, so I'm sure definitely some of that, I got some of that from him, and because we were like I was 7 or 8. We did like a dressed up as the Blues Brothers. So like my older brother was one of the Blues Brothers, and so fun stuff. Yeah.
So with y'all's music now with this band,
Actually, before I start into that, why don't you
Yeah.
give me, tell them the name and give me a rundown. Who's in, playing what?
Yeah, so the band is Pocket Chocolate, which is whatever you want it to mean. We get a lot of different possible answers for that, but yeah, Pocket Chocolate, and I'm Gabe. I play bass, some guitar, and some piano, and I sing. My older brother Tucker plays guitar. Connor plays drums, and we've been playing together for like 4 or 5 years now, which is crazy. Dalton plays keys and percussion, and then we have 5 horns. Luke on saxophone, Mike on trumpet, Sal, who I went to high school with, on trumpet, Garrett, who I went to high school with, on saxophone, and then Guy on saxophone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people in the
It's
band.
a lot of people. It's and it's been very. There's obviously some difficulty just keeping everybody on the same page, and
Sure.
you know what I mean. So, but it's great because it teaches you how to like work with a lot of people, you know, and
Yeah.
like that's super important, especially with the band. Like, if you're in a band with a bunch of people, you have to know how to like work with people, and you have to kind of figure out different ways to deal with certain people, and you know, because that's half of it is just like
Sure.
trying to keep it up, make sure everybody's
Yeah,
on the
it's a
same
lot.
page, and
For performances, I would imagine it's a little harder, but y'all are in the process of doing an album right now, correct?
yeah, we just recorded an EP, and then probably in the next few months, towards the summer, we're gonna start working on more like a full length album, which will be like our first, you know, original music that we've released. So we're pretty pumped.
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah.
fun.
Are y'all getting together all at once to record? Are y'all taking advantage of being able to lay down different sections at different times?
Yeah, so kind of both, but we went to for the EP we went to Diamond Sounds, and kind of all together did like a live recording of
Okay.
4 originals and then 1 or 2 covers, and then we're gonna kind of narrow it down, just like what sounds best to us to release. But yeah, we love like the live stuff, like playing live, and especially like in New Orleans, you know, like we play a lot on Frenchman Street, and the live stuff, to me at least, is like that's the best, you know.
Oh,
what I mean?
sure, yeah.
That's how music is, in my opinion. Like, obviously, I love, you know, studio recordings, and you know, but to me, like the live stuff is that's music to me.
It's an immediate response.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, just getting into like, you know, a lot of jam bands and stuff like that. Allman Brothers. I'm a big Allman Brothers fan, and like listening to those like live Fillmore East albums, and you know, that kind of stuff is like getting like a response out of the crowd. There's nothing better than that. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
I've seen a same band more than once. I've seen the same band perform under different conditions, I guess you would say. Whereas one night the crowd was thick and enthusiastic, and another time it was almost empty.
Yeah.
And you could, if you couldn't even see the crowd for both of those performances, you could tell which one had more people there.
right.
They kind of feed off of each other, and I get that, you know. And
100%.
It's I mean, everybody's trying to get 5 minutes of attention or
Yeah.
fame or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
it's better than a Facebook like or something.
Yeah,
you know, like
for sure.
You see the look on people's faces or something, you know.
Definitely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I've never asked anybody this before. Okay, so I wrote a song one time and recorded it, and then I think I called it Sunday because it just reminded me of relaxing on a Sunday, like let's say at the lakefront or something,
Yeah.
you know. And I brought it to somebody and let them listen to it, and be damned if he didn't say It reminds me of relaxing on a Sunday. I felt like I just had a Jesus moment,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I was speechless for
Yeah.
a moment, you know? So I guess in that capacity, in some of the music that you write and play for others, do you feel like you're able to communicate with your instrument? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A vibe or an attitude, or
Yeah,
do
definitely.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think too, like going back to talking about like different styles of music, like trying to combine the stuff that we like into like forming our own sound, you know, and doing that with our own songs has been super fun, because like we've only since maybe the past year we've really been like getting down and writing our own stuff and
Sure.
coming up with our own composition and having, you know, specific parts for specific instruments, not necessarily writing it all out, but trying to write your own part, you know, on your instrument, which is
Sure.
very difficult to do if you're not used to doing it. And I think definitely as we've started to get more comfortable with it, and you know, it kind of, you automatically start writing stuff like on a bass that is more you than somebody else. And I think like the writing a song that is supposed to convey a feeling, I think comes easier too when you have like an idea of like, what do I want to feel, like you were saying, like I want to feel like a Sunday afternoon. It's all, I mean, that's what music is just like feeling. So if you have some sort of feeling, especially on like a more of a melodic instrument, you know, like a piano or
Certainly.
Yeah, like it's easier to convey that for sure. And I think yeah, I mean, I think as we've progressed and as we've like started writing more and trying to work together with each other, it's easier to kind of just be like, what do we want this to feel like and sound like, and kind of just do it. I think,
Yeah.
you know, getting more comfortable with that as a band, and then also like I've been the main one writing more of the words and the lyrics. So trying to figure out, you know, if my brother Tucker comes in with a song, you know, like what do I feel when I hear the song?
And kind of build off of that.
Yeah, to kind of like write lyrics to, or if I have a certain idea already that I can kind of.
Yeah, I think writing and releasing your first album is going to help with that as well, because you're just like, you know, song structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, last night.
Alliteration is awesome.
Yeah. So, you know, song structure, and you think about that while you're writing songs and bringing in instruments for certain parts. I think the same could be said for the anatomy of an album, because it's supposed to convey its own story.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, I mean, arguably, but you're going to want a few party tracks here, then you're going to want maybe something a little more emotional here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I guess it'll reinforce the importance of being able to elicit that variety. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
in the writing process,
definitely.
you know, you'll be able to reverse think about some of these things, I think, in the future, and that'll help you out. With so many people in the band, how many pieces of songs are being thrown in the pot at the same time? I mean, it's got to be a lot.
Yeah, that's and that's definitely something too, that like you just have to do it and like get through the difficulty of trying to work in certain parts, or being able to say like, maybe let's not put that part in, you know, this song, but maybe we could use it in another song, or maybe, you know, it's just a lot of like, you have to compromise, you know, especially like, you know, if I come in with a song that I have a specific idea for, you know, a lot of times it will inevitably change, just because there's 8 other people or however many other people, you know, that get a certain feeling or a certain idea from what I have. But there's a, yeah, you have to compromise and be willing to kind of go somewhere where you might not have thought
Sure.
that it could go.
Have you ever seen it fall into place, like everybody just showed up that night with stuff that went together?
Yeah. It's definitely.
Seriously?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like we've been working on one. We didn't record it. We didn't record it for the EP, but we'll end up doing it probably for the full length thing. And my older brother kind of had an idea for a song, and then I was like, oh, you know, we kind of just mess around on it, and you know, just jam and try to get. It's almost like musical vomiting.
Yeah,
you know,
just
you're just
throw
like
it all out
throwing
there.
every
Yeah.
idea you have possible. Because inevitably, like once you keep going, you'll find something where it's like, okay, I can work with this, and
Sure.
and so we got to that point with this specific one, and then the horns. This was just the rhythm section, so guitar, bass, drums. I think Dalton was probably there as well on percussion and keys, and we kind of had a brainstorm of a certain idea that we wanted to kind of continue with, but it was pretty much just one section of a song.
Yeah.
And then we jammed a little bit with my cousin who plays guitar, and it just was like, oh, here we go. All right, we have a chorus part now, and we have a little, you know, like interlude section or whatever.
Sure.
And
A lot of sounds coming in all at once.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're not at a loss for inspiration, because
Yes.
somebody's gonna have something all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great, man.
Yeah, and then the horns kind of came in and just have been working up a little part, and yeah, from where it started too, it's just so cool because we always take like voice memos of every time we play, just to have, you know, especially if you come up with an idea, you're like,
Sure. You
damn, I want to remember that. you know?
Yeah, I'll do that.
And just going back and listening to it, and then kind of using that as like a bass line, but it's starting to form, and I've got some words to it now, and but yeah, it was just kind of like it just happened. And then there's other songs too, like that one of the songs we recorded for the EP where I was just playing bass by myself, and I kind of came up with a couple of little parts, and it ended up just being that was the song, but I didn't really plan it to be that.
Sure.
It just kind of happened, I guess.
Yeah. And I wanted to get you to attempt to explain the sound of your band for people that haven't heard it but might be listening to this.
Yeah.
Because let me start by saying it was crazy to me, because I recognized some of the songs that y'all are playing, and then it morphs into something else, which I think is unique, and it needs to be said, you know?
Yeah. So like, yeah, originally when we started playing, you know, we were playing pretty much only covers. But the music that I like, that I listen to probably the most, you know, we'll play covers, but it's not the song that you would originally hear, you know. There's a lot of Allman Brothers songs, or a lot of Allman Brothers albums where they do covers, and it's like, this is not the song at all, but it's
Right,
their own thing.
Sure.
Which to me, that's how you express yourself, I guess. But we try to kind of build on that. We're a huge fan of like jam bands, you know, Dave Matthews and Dumpsta Funk, and you know, like I said, like New Orleans, and just trying to pull in all these different pieces together into one cohesive thing. And I'd say, you know, we're a, it's hard to describe, you know, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself, but
yeah, no, it's not easy.
But I would say, you know, definitely funk, soul, blues, and we just love to kind of try and take people, you know, or the listener, you know, somewhere else where they might not expect, especially, you know, like if it's a cover or something like that. We try to, a lot of times with live shows, we try to combine songs and without stopping, you know, like, so we'll play, you know, two of the songs we cover, we do a John Clear song called When You Get Back. Great song. One of my favorite artists, for sure. And, you know, it's just like this kind of New Orleans groove, sitting back a lot. And and we play through the song, and then we transition to If You Want Me to Stay by Sly and the Family Stone, and it's in the same key, exact same chord progression and everything, and we try to just like seamlessly go into different songs through other songs, just because it's when you catch people off guard too, especially live, you know, it catches people's ear, and you know, it makes you want to stay. And that's like Frenchman Street, especially, like if you're not interesting or like doing something interesting, like people are just gonna be like, all right, well, I'm gonna go to the next place.
You're one of many.
Yeah. Which
if
that's
you want me to stay.
Yeah. Which is like, that's the beauty of it too, because it really makes you like work to like keep people invested and interested and like want to stay. And so we try to kind of do that and transition into different songs from song to song. And just because like when we first started playing, I didn't really like, it was, you know, the first couple of times like on stage, you know, you don't really like know what to say like to the audience
in between songs.
So just like let's just keep playing. So I don't have to talk.
Strictly antisocial efforts, nothing to do with melody or chord progression, right?
But now I'm more comfortable, so like we can stop a little more now.
Yeah. Did you have so that was what it was to start?
Yeah.
It was a cover band that was presenting their own take on songs and combining songs, but it was covers. And then later on, y'all started to write your own material. Did somebody say, let's do this? Or, I mean, did you feel like it was necessary?
Yeah, I think when we first started playing, it was, you know, we were doing the covers and stuff just to be able to get gigs, I guess, because a lot of the other guys in the band had been in other bands where, you know, you start off and you only do original music, you know, which is great because you're writing stuff and you're doing your own parts, and that's how you get better musically. Obviously playing songs, you know, that are, you know, cover songs is great too. But, you know, you play your own songs, you play, you know, an hour set and it's all your own songs, like no one knows the songs. Obviously, once you play more.
Right, well, I mean, it could be a tough sell.
It's a tough sell.
Yeah.
And so we kind of just started like that, and but we were always had the mindset of, you know, having our own music and writing our own music, and it just took time, and a lot of like the pandemic was spent doing that and just kind of working on our own stuff, and just trying to get more serious at writing stuff, and it just ended up being where I've been writing pretty much all the lyrics to the songs if they have lyrics, and kind of combining forces with, you know, the horns and trying to get a, like I was saying before, like a cohesive sound. You know?
Yeah.
So that's not scattered all over the place. But yeah, it was definitely something that we wanted to do from the beginning, write our own music, and and we've kind of got the ball rolling now, where, you know, we're writing a lot, and we have the ability to kind of be like, this one's not so good, maybe let's work on this one more for right now, and you can always, obviously, you know, come back to stuff, and, you know, that's the voice memos too, just saving stuff for later, you know.
With the original lineup being covers, was it hard? Did you have to always be on the lookout for accidentally borrowing? Do you know what I mean? When you're writing? Because, I mean, it happens to everyone. You could sit for hours and write a song, and then you play it back the next day and you realize, that's not my song. Like, it sounds too much like this other thing I was listening to last week.
Yeah, it definitely, for sure. And then, like, that's just part of it, because, I mean, the greatest, in my opinion, like, the best artists are emulating somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whether or not it's super obvious, or not, but doing it more, at least for me, has gotten me to the point where, you know, you can almost go into a song and be like, I want to write a song like in the vein of, you know, Fats Domino or whatever the artist may be, but like playing more as we have, you know, the last couple years, you kind of uncover your own kind of way of doing it,
Sure.
you know, and where it's not them, it's not their song or it's not their sound, but you know, you could tell, okay, this is some, you know, he took some from here and some from here, and which is I like doing that because I love so many different artists, and you know, for me it's like I'm you know, it's out of respect, you know.
Yeah.
And it is hard too, because like you don't want somebody to be like, that's this person, you know.
No.
You want to be your own thing, and I think just doing it more gets you more comfortable in yourself, and
yeah. It is an interesting caveat to identity, I would say, because I mean there are a lot of musicians that I interview that they started playing at like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And at 10 years old, musician or not, you're still trying to figure out who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And then you grab an instrument, you don't know why, but now you have an additional void to fill up with your own sense of self-identity. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So coming out of covers and moving into originals, I would say presents that challenge in a different fashion. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you're discovering your own identity. You know what you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But now it's time to figure out what you sound like. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think comes of the originals? I mean, you have more now. You did the EP, you had a few, but you have more now that y'all have been writing since then. What do you think, and you kind of said it already, I guess, what your genres are, but what do you think your band's identity is?
I think already just having the setup that we have, it's a very unique sound. And I don't know, I mean, we're definitely, the main roots are in New Orleans funk. So I'd say that kind of establishes like the base for like the identity of us, because we all love that style of music. But just having so many people too, it allows you to kind of explore different avenues that you know, maybe 4 people wouldn't be able to, as opposed to like 8 or 9.
Absolutely.
You know, just so many different styles. You know, like, you know, there's people in the band that love Steely Dan, and there's people in the band that love, you know, Wolfpack or Tower of Power, or you know, all these different kinds of groups. And so being able to have that influence of all these different people, I think, just it creates like your own identity. And I don't know if it's necessarily, you know, one specific thing, but yeah, New Orleans funk, at least for me, and I know for a bunch of the guys in the group, that's where, at least for me, like I fell in love with like live music through that.
Sure.
You know, seeing people like George Porter and John Cleary and Dumpsta Funk, you know, playing at the Maple Leaf, like getting snuck in when I was like not old enough to do that.
What
and
a
just
noble
like,
cause.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100. Oh no. Yeah. And just being a part of that, because that's what it is in New Orleans. Like, if you go and see live music, you know, at Jazz Fest or, you know, Fried Chicken Fest or Po' Boy Fest on Oak Street or anything like that, like you're a part of it, just being in the audience. You know, and that's how, like, obviously, like, life in New Orleans, I think, is.
Sure.
Just with Mardi Gras and everything, and like everybody is kind of a part of it, and so that was very like opening to me. Is like, damn, we could do this, you know?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are or like what you look like, because if you love it and you work on it enough and you kind of incorporate it into yourself and how you do things, you know, that's all it is, you know.
It is easier for us to be able to see live music, and I think it makes it more approachable for some people, because like I was saying before, people start when they're young typically, and you're not always, it doesn't always occur to a child that they could be on the radio.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a person, that's a celebrity. It's a different being. Do you know what I'm saying? So to have you know, friends that share the same interest, or to have an older brother, to see him do it first, it kind of hits home literally that, you know, you can actually be a part of these things, you know, and then to make the transition to calling yourself a musician, you know, that takes a while to be able to be comfortable with.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
So but it seems like y'all fit together well. There's so many of you.
Yeah.
I hope that works out. Dude. That's got to be logistically a nightmare at times. You had mentioned the pandemic too was kind of a catalyst for some of this, and that's all I'm hearing, dude. So far, it's been amazing how it revolutionized the soundscape. It's the genesis for people's first album.
Yeah.
It's the genesis for I had an artist that did 41 music videos in 30 days. You know, so many incredible things that they would have never thought of before, but they were placed into this situation. It became necessary to keep moving forward. You're gonna have to get creative.
Yes.
And I think we'll see a lot of good music coming out of this.
Art in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because it's not something you would think of off top. You know, like if somebody asked you what are the results going to be of this, you wouldn't say, "Great new music." You'd sound like yes, you know. Yeah. So that's funny.
Yeah.
As far as your live performances go, have y'all just been kind of booking gigs at your leisure? Is there any kind of responsible party within the band for that, or how do you do it?
Yeah, it's definitely something now where we've gotten into where we kind of know a lot of the people booking at venues and have just, you know, sort of gradually over time become friends with people. Mm-hmm. You know, here's this number, here's this person's number.
Sure.
You know, they're gonna call you about a gig, and that's awesome because now we have issues with like overbooking where it's like people want us for this date, and it's like I mean, I would love to do that, but like we already took, you know, this specific date, which is the best problem to have when you're a musician.
Sure is, yeah.
Is people asking you, you know, to play and you can't because you're already booked, you know. But you know, it obviously wasn't like that in the beginning. A lot of the booking was Dalton, and a lot of it still is, just because he knows so many people in the industry, and but I've gradually started being able to do that as well, which I never would have thought I would be doing like a couple years ago, because I was more like, I'll just show up and play, you know, just tell me where to go. I'll do that. But I've gotten more involved with booking and communicating with like bookers and venues, and which is great. I mean, it's awesome. And
yeah, it's definitely essential. It's an essential tool.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
I think I guess the first part of that is wanting to learn how to do these things. Your mind's got to be in it, your heart's got to be in it, but after that you realize how essential it is.
100%.
Have some bands mentioned the pitfalls of kind of playing the same venue too many times? It's really easy to find yourself doing that. Yeah. And it's so easy to want to remain comfortable, and familiarity is a comfort, you know.
Yes.
Have y'all had that problem at all?
I think in the beginning of us sort of playing, we did, but it was more out of the fact that we couldn't get more gigs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, like comfortability in terms of growing and getting better is like the worst possible thing. Yeah. Because you're not gonna want to progress, and playing new venues and new places and for new crowds, I think is obviously the best way to get your name out there.
Yeah. And
just to get better. Like we went from, you know, the most we would play is, you know, an hour and a half set to, you know, venues like D-Max or you know, the Maison or 3090. These different venues, you know, approaching us, you know, a year and a half ago, saying, we want you to play the entire night. You know, we want you to have your own specific night. And that's, you know, 3-4 plus hours of music.
Right.
Which is, obviously, you know, you ask us for our own night, yes. But we had not nearly enough material.
Gotcha.
You know, so is that a necessity where we were like, okay, we need to learn new songs and we need to write our own songs because we need to be able to
got to fill that time.
Fill the time.
Sure.
And that's been like the biggest blessing. Obviously, it was not great at the beginning because, you know, your fingers are blistering and skin's falling off, and I can't talk for 2 days. But having to do that and having to suffer through it is like the best possible way to get better, because it's
You're earning your stripes.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
essential too.
Exactly.
If
And
you want to be able to call yourself a musician, then you're going to have to do these
yes,
things.
it's all about the struggle. You know, you get better. That's the only way to progress.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, playing new venues and, you know, bigger venues and festivals and different stuff like that. You know, you have to be at the point where, you know, a 3-hour, 4-hour show is like easy, you know, or it's not something that you would think about.
How common is that? How common is that for y'all to have to play that?
Pretty
that
common.
length of time. Really?
Pretty common. That's pretty much all of our shows. The past year or so have been about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, which is, you know, it's on Frenchman Street too. It's very different because, you know, you go to a bar like D-Max and there's not as much foot traffic, obviously, as somewhere near the French Quarter, and so you're playing for 3 hours on Frenchman Street, and, you know, people are filing in and people are filing out, but like being able to kind of hold people's attention has been something that we've kind of
Focused on.
Started to figure out a little more how to do that and how to keep energy up, and, you know, when to maybe bring it down a little bit, or but yeah, that's been the best thing that's happened to us, is just having to play these long shows.
Yeah. Are you using it, since you have so much time, are you using some of that time as kind of like a litmus to see how new material will go over?
100%. Yeah, so that was kind of the basis for like us doing like the live EP. You know, just trying to get these songs up to par enough to where we've played them live, you know, 40 times, and they're tight and everyone has a specific part.
Sure.
So that when we go in the studio to record, we're literally, I mean, it's
No
easy.
problem. Yeah.
And we're not writing parts, we're not figuring out, you know, maybe do this here and maybe don't do that here. We've kind of, through trial and error and also through just like practicing together, kind of have already figured all that out, which is great. And that's the beauty of like a 3-hour show, because, you know, there's 150 people in the venue, you know, and you play one of your own songs and it responds well to people, and, you know, they're like, man, who's that song by? It's like, yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
You know? But
do you do it like that?
Yeah.
Like sideways too? Yeah.
Yeah. But like, and then also sometimes like we've used that to like try out a new song. Like the other day we were at D-Max playing a show, and we hadn't played this brand new song that we wrote live in front of anybody, and there's like 4 people there, you know, and then it's like, all right, well, this
Can't hurt.
Yeah, and it matters obviously, because it's practice, you know, it's getting the work in and reps, and but it's the pressure's off maybe a little bit more, and that kind of gives you a little more opportunity to maybe I'll try this out, you know, this part that I didn't, you know. So
do you so all of this material, the EP and the album and your shows and all these things have kind of fell into place out of necessity. Do you think that there's any sort of strategy for the exposure of new material versus what you release? And I don't know if I framed it up very well in a question, but I'll give you, for example, some entertainers, they'll save certain material to be recorded, but they can't release that until they at least tour for a while, because otherwise people are showing up to hear stuff that they already heard. You want a kind of a healthy mixture, I think, at a show. Do you have any kind of strategy for what you're releasing and what you're playing live?
Yeah,
you're just doing it all right now, I guess. But in the future, let's say.
So for the EP specifically, we are obviously, you know, we're based in New Orleans, and we play mainly in New Orleans right now. So a lot of this, the month of February is going to be based around Mardi Gras, and we have some very exciting gigs lined up for that. That will get us a lot of exposure, and so we're kind of right now aiming for releasing it right before then. and we're gonna be doing the Crew de Vue ball,
Nice.
playing the ball, and then we're doing a gig on top of a float in the Crew of Mad Hatters.
Awesome.
And possibly a couple other things as well in that month. And so we're trying to just like kind of blast, social media and that kind of stuff around that month to be our release for the new stuff.
In February?
In February, and
Uh-huh.
also, or I guess the end of January, we're shooting for to be able to have it out for when we go to the ball, to promote that
Sure.
there, with people, hopefully already gaining some interest from our set at the at the ball with the crew there.
Yeah.
A lot of drunk and disorderly people hopefully will be very interested, and
Yeah. Liberal with the funds.
yeah, exactly. And same thing with the the float, in Metairie, kind of tapping into a couple of different areas, and spreading out a little bit, and being able to kind of touch down in a couple different like markets, I guess.
Sure. Are you playing this material that's about to be released? Are you playing that now live?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that was we recorded in October, and so a lot of the summer and the months leading up to that was kind of us trying to figure out, like I was saying before, different parts for different songs, and
Sure.
just working them up to be able to go into the studio and kind of get them done and lay them down really easily. And so we've been just keep hammering those same songs, just to get them tighter and just to play them more, and
Sure.
work them into different spots in the set, so yeah.
And moving forward, it sounds like maybe a lot was based around a lot of your movement was based around marketability, and timing with Mardi Gras and things like that, to kind of, I guess, help promote that release.
Yeah, and it's been something that we have the ability to actually think about more. Just like, when do we want to actually release this, or like when, because we didn't have it before. So it gives you you have to make it. You don't have to, but we like to make it something that's special.
Right.
It's
like a tethered to an occasion special, or it is its own occasion special.
I think a little bit of both, but definitely, if you're playing live like we do a lot, just being able to say like, hey, we're gonna have this out, and
knowing,
literally tell people instead of just on, it's great to post it on social media and stuff like that and let people know, but not everybody's gonna see it.
Right.
Not everybody that follows you looks at all your posts or reads the whole post.
So you got a specific date?
Not as of yet.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were alluding to.
No,
you had a specific date.
Yeah, we're still in the process of mixing it all. We were working on some earlier, and then I'm probably gonna do some vocal stuff later tonight, and just we're still just kind of working it up and trying to get it right, just because we want to, you don't want to release something that's not ready,
No. Yeah.
and so that's the plan. Out the end of January. That's
Okay.
It's
All right.
more solid than.
I don't want to throw you under the bus,
Yeah.
but I'm calling you at the end of January. Like, where's this at, dude? I thought we had an agreement.
Yeah.
We'll call it a carnival release.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
you go. Carnival season. That's
Yes.
all season. That's
There you
awesome. That's good, man.
Yeah.
I wish you all the best on that.
Yeah.
What hasn't worked for you so far? Real big general question, but what hasn't worked as far as what doesn't work when you're writing new material, or what doesn't work for you when you're booking, or what doesn't work for you when you're assembling this album to be released? Have you noticed some things that are just don'ts for any musician, or maybe just for y'all?
Yeah, I think just being able to, like, especially like we were talking about before, just having so many people, and being able to, like, there has to be clear and concise communication between everybody, or else it's not going to work. And like that's been something that we've kind of learned and have been working on just to get better at, when you have a phone and somebody texts you, you don't have to answer it. You know? And that's great in some cases and also not great because, if you have a brain like me, sometimes, somebody texts you something that you don't necessarily want to answer and you're like, maybe I'll just wait and not answer it, but just like being able to communicate to, who's in the band and because we have a lot of people, so it's a lot of moving parts. People are out of town maybe one day and, can't come to a gig or, something like that. And I think that's mainly for us has been something that we've been trying to work on more, and it's been way better. And that's just growing.
What's aided you with that? What's helped you?
I think just our.
Don't say answering your text. We won't.
No,
real answers here.
No, I think.
Somebody would be like, oh, I never thought of that.
I think just like having the people that we do in the band that are passionate and want to make it work. I think that's the best. Obviously, that's kind of a no-brainer. But if you have people that don't really want to make it work or don't care as much, it's not going to work. But if everybody is kind of all in and everybody is kind of working together, which we have, thankfully, it's a lot easier to kind of be like, all right, I need to be answering more. I need to be, trying to get together more, whatever the case may be. I think that's important. And I think too, with touching on a separate note for difficulties, writing music more, I've learned, and it kind of goes with anything, but forcing stuff is never.
No, it's an impossibility.
It's impossible.
You won't have a genuine result. That's
exactly.
For sure.
And if you with writing or just communicating with people, if you're trying to force something down somebody's throat, or you're trying to force a song to work, or a lyric to work, and it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. That's sometimes you just have to. You got to just move on and try something that, maybe, you're sitting in the, shower or whatever, just singing to yourself, and you're like, oh, that works, and it's not forced. It's not anything that was, or same thing with communication. You have to. There's a give and take between people, doing anything where if you try and force someone to do something, they're gonna want to do it less.
Right.
You kind of have to give them a reason to want to do it. You know what I mean?
A little bit of freedom too.
Yeah.
Has there been any mandatories in your band? Any kind of mandatory anything?
Not. I mean, some of the stuff like recording. We want everybody to be there. Yeah. And that's not more of you have to be here. It's we want you to be here so that we sound the way we should sound.
Sure.
But we've gotten to the point where we all have been playing together for long enough to where we can kind of we have the ability to be able to listen to somebody else playing something and maybe not have to work on it as hard as we would have before. Obviously,
because you're doing remote. Is that what you're saying?
No, just we try to kind of divide between sections a lot of times and just kind of do horns.
Gotcha.
Working on their own stuff, and rhythm section working on their own stuff, and obviously we'll combine and do stuff together, but it's so hard to get people in one spot. It's kind of pointless to try and 3 days a week we all need to be together in this one spot at the same time, and instead we've tried to kind of delegate to where the horns will get together this day, or whatever day y'all figured out, and the rhythm section will get together, and then usually we do a day before, if we have a show, we'll all get together and kind of work on whatever we want to work on for the next day for the show, and I think that's helped a lot, just trying to organize ourselves a little bit better,
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessity with so many people, I would imagine.
Definitely.
Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
After the release of the upcoming album, or I should say looking back on it, how did you feel with the album itself? Because that's not alive. It's not recorded live together like the EP was. It's recorded in a different fashion, correct?
That will be something that we decide on, but I think going off of like how we did the EP, we'll probably do it in a similar fashion where
Really?
we're all in the same
All at
room.
once.
Yeah, and like there's definitely, you know, it's not like one take, or it's not, you know, I mean, we're you know, there's sections that need to be overdubbed and like, you know, some vocal parts that I might put on top or stuff like that, but we definitely lean toward more of, you know, being able to like see each other while we're playing and,
Gotcha.
and feeding off of each other. And I think so, at least for right now, that's the plan of how we're, you know, planning on doing, you know, the next stuff we record.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, big thing of that was doing it together in the live room, but taking full advantage of the recording process and
Yeah.
being able to go over after with the same microphones, the same horn players, and the same take, but just kind of reverberate and you know, polish up those parts.
Sure.
Being able to
Yeah.
put the focus in and drill it.
Yeah.
That way they have the credit they deserve for the work they put in for the parts.
Yeah. I've never really thought about it. I mean, you I guess certain parts people want isolated, like the vocals or
Sure.
something. I mean, that's why they have ISO booths for
Yeah.
things like that. But so it's not a necessity. And honestly, you know, bands of yesteryear, that's all they did. They
Right.
were all in the same room
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, that's some of the coolest stuff too. Like you listen to
It is.
you listen to Fats Domino, you know, Ray Charles, you know, guys in the 50s and 60s, and obviously before that, and it was one mic in the middle of the room with, you know, however many people playing, and you know, if somebody messed up on one part, you just have to do the whole thing again. And there's something to that which I love, and just kind of that like raw, like it's, you know, it's raw music. It's not, you know, obviously there's effects, you know, especially now, like just the ability to put different effects on different, you know, instruments and parts. But yeah, there's something about that, just, you know, having one mic, everybody in the same room.
Sure.
You know, it's more of a performance than it would be if you're all.
It's more honest. I
Yeah,
get what you're
yeah,
saying. Yeah, it's more honest. And honestly, to back what you were saying earlier, I mean, you could put 1,000 effects on something, and it no longer resembles
Right.
the moment in time, which is what was supposed to be
Yeah,
captured. It's
yeah.
a moment in time, audio, moment in
Yes,
time. You know, what I mean?
100%.
So, so that's cool. So I guess for future albums, that's going to be an element that you're going to want to preserve. Then,
Yeah.
staying together for the recordings.
Yeah, I think so, and we definitely have some plans to do some live recorded albums, like at venues and stuff like that.
Okay.
With us on stage, you know, for an audience, and that's some of my favorite stuff to listen to.
I don't find that to be too common. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe
Yeah.
it's just me,
No,
but
it's
if I
really not, it's not these days.
right,
that's
but I
the
mean,
big
like the
thing.
preference is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Honestly, if I'm choosing between a studio album and a live album, I'm gonna choose the studio album
Yeah.
for the quality of the sound.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Maybe today that's different. Maybe you can avoid some of those pitfalls that they couldn't in the past with the technology that they had, but I was just pointing out that it's kind of uncommon for someone to say, well, I prefer
Yeah,
listening to the live recording.
yeah,
And typically that'd usually be for the difference in how, you know, we said we play live compared to recorded, because live, I mean, you're capturing, you're pulling all these different elements out from within,
Sure.
and you're feeding off the crowd, and that's something that other people like Allman Brothers used to.
yeah,
They wouldn't record a song until they've played it live in front of people, but then when they do record it,
Mhm.
they have people there, so that they basically have their own audience of their closest friends and whatnot.
Gotcha.
And they would feed off of that, but that's going to be the biggest element in the recording process for us, is meeting in the middle between the benefits of production in the studio and the benefits of the elements that you capture live.
Sure. Gotcha. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
It's something unto itself. Excuse me, I would say something unto itself because of the qualities it presents, but also because it's kind of rare. Like, you don't see it as much anymore.
yeah, yeah. And I think just like it's a different feeling that you get. You know, you if you listen to like some live stuff and you feel the crowd, build, and the energy from the band as well kind of does the same thing. I mean, it's kind of inevitable if, you have, however many people in a crowd cheering, or not cheering, hopefully cheering, but but you have however many people going crazy, and it gives you extra. It gives you adrenaline. It gives you maybe something that you might not have gotten out of the studio. And like I said before, like I'm. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a me liking one more than the other, but it's different. It's a different.
Okay, so
what I mean?
It adds.
Yeah.
It adds to the experience, I guess.
Yeah, and it depends what I'm in the mood for too. I love like folk music too. Like I love Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel and whoever else I can name that I can't think of right now. But I also love listening to like a Dave Matthews album from 2002, and then listening to another one 10 years later, and it's the same songs all in a different order, and they're they have different feelings and emotions that are like attached to them, and that's the coolest stuff for me. Is just like same thing with the Allman Brothers, just like looking at different shows and being like, wow, they played this song last instead of first, and it's like completely different. It's a completely different feeling. It's a completely different the basis is still there, but like I guess how they get to certain parts is different, and
You go from operating on instinct, and I mean it's instinct versus premeditation basically. So you're getting two different versions of the person.
Yeah, definitely.
I love finding out later on the backstory, like when they do documentaries and things, and you realize why that album sounded so much more angry than the one before because of the drama that was going on within the band or things of that nature.
100%.
Do y'all get together after shows and discuss what you feel worked well and what didn't, as far as, I don't know, a set list or parts in a song or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, I used to play sports in high school. I played football and everything, and like, you watch film, like after a game, or whatever you're doing, to get better. And we do the same thing. We almost always take voice memos of like our live shows, so we can listen back, and a lot of times we'll go back to our recording space or practice space, and listen back and just kind of listen to maybe not the whole entire thing, but certain parts where people were like, oh, this song was insane, let's listen to that one. And a lot of not a lot of times, but you'll get the occasional one where it's like, okay, it sounded way better in my head when we were playing it.
There's a lot of things like that.
But that's the best to just be like, all right, and especially with writing your own parts for your own songs, listening to us play one of our own songs and being like, that part was great. We need to emphasize that.
Sure.
That needs to be a specific part when we play it the next time live.
Sure.
Or maybe the opposite of that, saying maybe I shouldn't play that on bass. Maybe I should do something different. But I think that's important for us too, just getting better live, and kind of working our set list, and being able to listen back and hear somewhat of what the audience was hearing. I think that's an important aspect of like after a show. Definitely.
How much do you think that it influences your decisions when it comes to the album? Or do you just keep the two separate in your mind?
I think it's separate, because we do try and change up the set list a lot in terms of positioning of like songs or what we're gonna open with. Just because I like doing stuff differently. Trying to do stuff differently every time, and trying not to play something maybe the same way. Even an original that we've recorded, and even doing it live maybe slightly differently, that it gives somebody maybe that knows the song, if they know the song, it's like, oh, they kind of feel together in on it, which a lot of like jam bands will do.
I think it's mutually beneficial though, because I mean, if you're a band that's gigging a lot, you're gonna get tired of playing the same thing all the time, the same way, and respectively, the audience. I mean, you got some people that are gonna go to several of your shows because they like you that much, and they're gonna be disappointed if you open up with the same thing and close with the same thing. You know?
Yeah, and that's a really good point too, because then you have to balance it where it's like, this person may have seen you the last 6 times you've played.
Yeah.
Or, there's people here that have never seen you play ever,
Right.
So it's finding a balance of like, we want to change it to where we are less comfortable with it, not to the point where we're not sure what we're doing, but just changing it up to where it's different, and we're having to like work through things on stage as well.
Yeah.
And also to where, someone listening to us is not like, well, this is not what I expected to hear, but it's a balance,
Sure.
I think playing more live helps with that,
Yeah. Going back to the mixture of covers and originals, like we were talking about earlier. I went and saw a band recently, and I mean, I'm not a fanatic of theirs. I know of them and a few of their songs, but I went with people that were really well familiar with their catalog, and they didn't recognize like one song. It was all new stuff. And
was that Goose?
I'm not gonna say who it was, but not only is it a hard sell, I mean, what are you doing for the audience? And I guess we won't insert Pocket Chocolate into that particular band scenario. That particular band's got 8 albums out or something like that. But for y'all, the mixture of covers and new material, is that a delicate mixture for y'all? Do you feel like you kind of lean on a cover here and there to keep the momentum going? I mean, does it have its place?
We definitely have certain songs that we have gotten to the point where, we know exactly what it's gonna do, like when we play it.
Sure.
And that's the cool part too. Like I do a lot of like the usually like just right before the show, I'll kind of make a rough set list.
Sure.
And you want to have, it's based on like feeling, like like I said before,
and like a little crescendo.
Yeah, you want to be able
for a minute,
exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
And having, especially too, like I'm singing, pretty much most of the show. We have a good bit of like instrumental stuff as well that we do, but just being able to be like, all right, I can't sing these two back to back or I'm gonna lose my voice.
Right.
And trying to balance that, and like you said, just like energy levels, and there's definitely a good bit of covers and a couple of our own songs that we've gotten to the point where it's like we can play this and it's going to get a certain response.
Yeah.
If we need that, specific thing, the energy's dead, we need to bring it up. Or
sure. Has it directly influenced how you're going to arrange your material for the album? The order in which you're going to arrange your material? It's not as crucial, I would think.
It's not as crucial, but I definitely think that just thinking about the set list does help with that, just because, I mean, I love listening to vinyl. I have like a record player, and it's so different to be able to listen to an album all the way through than it is, if you're on a streaming service and you can just kind of pick and choose, I mean?
It's a soulless endeavor,
exactly,
dude. You're getting music delivered to you, but it's just not the same, like you're saying.
It's not. And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of certain bands and, concept albums where you're not supposed, obviously there's no way you're supposed to listen to anything, but there's a clear outline of how it is arranged.
That's how they wanted it presented.
Right.
It's a presentation.
Yes, and I think that is important too, and just like thinking about it that way, especially with an album, thinking about how is this laid out, similar to like a song, you don't want to just beat people over the head every,
Sure.
Yeah. There has to be some sort of path, and high and low, and I think that's important, definitely, on in a set list and for an album. Yeah.
But I mean, the set list, having to sharpen your skills on the set list, and from trial and error, and seeing those reactions, I'm sure it's had a direct influence on how you structure and order your set list for your album. Is what I'm saying. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because basically with the album, part of that goal is to make, if we want people to be able to sit down and listen to the whole album, like people don't do as much anymore.
Right.
We want it to be as close as it is to going
What
to see
works
our
on
entire
stage.
performers.
Yeah, okay.
So people want to see us and see our whole show. Seeing our whole album should capture that same sort of feel where it's almost like we've tried this over 100 plus times.
Sure.
And tested this on numerous different crowds to where we see what works, we see what doesn't, and then kind of just base our alignment off of that.
Yeah.
As close to just what is popular chocolate,
Right. I got you. Can you cite a time where it just went to shit? It doesn't even have to be. I guess on stage would be more relevant. But,
yeah. I mean, there's been there's a couple of fun stories. But our very first gig that we ever played together in New Orleans, we did this it was like this producer showcase,
and music business.
Yeah, already you get, it's a little murky because you're like, all right, we're gonna do this, and then you have to pay to play, and the whole point is there's supposed to be
A&Rs and
people in the music business, and so we show up, we're supposed to play at 11 o'clock, whatever the time was, and we get there, first gig and all that, so we got there a little early. We're there at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, just hanging out, listening to other people playing. It's supposed to be a 40-minute set or something like that. And we're all being idiots and just hanging out, waiting. The person in charge comes up to us all right, well, we're a little we got pushed back a little bit, so we're gonna have to push y'all till probably about 1 a.m. And we're like, okay, so we're there at 9:30.
God.
And we don't go on stage until 2:15, and by the point the person before us finished, and all the people have left and are picking up the chairs at this venue, and we're like, all right, what is going on here? So we're talking to the lady, and she's like, yeah, we're gonna call it because there's nobody here, and we're like, all right, well, we paid to play here, so we're gonna play, and so literally it was one of the band members' girlfriend, the bartender and the owner of the venue, who didn't have anything to do with the thing, they were just hosting it,
right,
and then the lady in charge of the festival or whatever. And we played for 30 minutes, and that was our first set together. It was just 4 people or whatever. But that's part of it. And we've had instances where somebody will start a song and it's not maybe they're playing the wrong key or whatever.
You can't hear the other person.
You can't
play.
hear,
If the venue doesn't have a sound guy. But there was one time we played at Midnight Revival, and it had been raining that day. We didn't know there was going to be a parade also around the venue, so we went for the same exact time that we were meant to be there setting up. So that part, we could have probably figured that out, but they were just doing some renovations. They had some tarps up and whatnot, and it had been raining. Restate. So halfway through our set, all of a sudden the drummer notices a little tiny stream of water coming down, and then within 10 seconds,
then the heavens opened up.
The heavens opened. There's a cascade of water flying down,
man.
and it's just not stopping.
Yeah,
it's there are gallons on gallons and gallons
caught
of
up in the tarp,
dumping over their equipment on the corner of the stage, and it was the house equipment. All of our stuff was luckily out of the way, but man, that was.
Was that it for the show?
Pivotal point of the show. No, we kept playing.
Yeah, we kept going. But that's just part of it too. Just playing a lot,
Yeah.
But that's experience, and you know.
What's going to be the follow-up to this album that comes out? Because you're already performing the material, now you're going to put out the album. Are you going to possibly book a tour, or what's your idea?
Yeah, we've been kind of in the process of communicating with some people that have some connections, like throughout the Gulf South mainly right now, and there's a couple of venues that we play at right now that are one in particular that's opening a new venue in Florida, and we'll in Alabama, in Gulf Shores, and super convenient. So just having the ability to go there, and knowing a couple bands that have the connections to where they come here for a show and we'll play with them, and if they play a show in Austin or Lafayette, or
absolutely,
touching into different different areas where we can obviously you want to make some money, but also kind of just gain a following, and just have people where you can go back to these certain places and have a solid foundation that you're kind of laying down, and not just in New Orleans, which is obviously New Orleans is like the home base, and
so this is going to be like a Gulf South, perhaps.
Yeah, and we're slowly getting to where we have the ability to do that, just with having your own music out, as opposed to not having your own music out, like sending it to venues and just being like, hey, this is what we sound like. We'd love to play here. We were, this guy from this band told us, this is a great venue, and we're trying to, just having different people kind of on your side helps, and that's just part of knowing people and meeting people through the industry, and
Gotcha. How much was left over after you decided what tracks were going on this, or have you done that yet?
Yeah, we did 4 originals and 2 covers, I think. 5 originals. Did we do? I guess. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. So it'll be one. We'll pick one cover, just because that is part of that's it. It's an homage as much as it is as a sort of like a bread and butter. Like, we know this works, I guess.
Yeah. You're speaking on the EP.
The EP.
Okay.
The EP.
That's what I thought. What I was asking was, with this upcoming album,
I gotcha. Yeah.
Were there tracks left over that might make it into a future release, or was what was left over discarded, basically? No,
there'll definitely be stuff that we will work up a little bit more, and I'm definitely not in the camp of throwing stuff away.
Right.
But there also has to be, like I was saying before, it has to be what's it called? It has to be natural. You can't force it. If it's not right and everybody's not really feeling a certain song, forcing it is the worst thing you could do. And
so what are y'all doing? Voting? Y'all voting like that one stays, that one goes? I mean.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think it's necessarily like an actual vote, but more of a consensus of
gotcha.
I'd rather not do this one right now and maybe work on it, or maybe add a new part to it, or
it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And we definitely have stuff that even like you're saying now, that might not make it on the album, but obviously we plan on doing more releases and more stuff like that. And
how many tracks the upcoming album?
I would maybe 12. That's probably because we'll have 5 on the EP.
Yeah.
And I think at this point too, we've worked up enough songs that aren't on the EP to where it'll be 12, maybe 14. We're still kind of, figuring that out.
Down, yeah.
Yeah, because,
Gotcha.
like I was saying before, you don't want to put something on there just to put something on there.
Right.
It has to, it has to be something that we all like and something that's ready.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
As far as whether people can find you, we won't say show dates because time-sensitive stuff doesn't make it out in
Right.
time. But you have online sources that people can come to check you out.
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, Pocket Chocolate Music, and then we have Venmo. And then what is the actual website domain name?
The domain name can be found in our link tree on
there you go.
our Facebook, our Instagram, on the YouTube page.
It pretty much has everything that you would need.
Your link tree accessible through on your Facebook?
Yeah, it's in our bio on every
Okay.
page, on every social
On every
media page.
bio. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And on our website, you'll be able to find all of our dates. In the profile of our Instagram, you'll be able to find all of our dates upcoming, and even in some of the most recent posts.
All
You'll be
right.
able to find a collective shot of all of
Yep.
Good deal. I'll throw that in the article. Since you got a link tree, I guess I'll just go ahead and snag that real quick.
Yeah.
Make it easy for me.
Yeah.
All right, man. Pocket chocolate.
Yep.
I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thank you,
man.
brother.
Yeah, of course.